Hey guys, and welcome to Science. Today I am outside because we are going to be talking about things in an animal's environment that they need to live. So first of all, what is an environment? Well, an environment is everything around a living thing. And we're talking about the air, the other living things around them. I had before, I think they're gone, but I had some birds behind me, so those would be part of my environment right now. The air, the plants, everything around it. That's the environment. So when we talk about saving the environment, we're talking about saving the area around us. Another word I'm going to be using is habitat, and that's very similar to environment in that a habitat is the area that an animal is living in. So for example, if I'm talking about a sea turtle, their habitat is the ocean, and that's their environment around them. If I am talking about a bear, their habitat is the woods, and that's the environment around them. All right, so to start off today's lesson, we're going to be talking about three things a living thing needs from their environment. But first of all, let's make sure we know what a need is. I'm sure you've heard your parents or somebody else talk about the difference between a need and a want. A need is something you absolutely have to have, or you will not live. A want is something you would like, but you would survive if you didn't get it. So a need is stuff like food, water, clothes. Those are a house, or at least an apartment, someplace to stay. Don't all needs. A want would be something like cool clothes or an iPhone or stuff like that that you don't have to survive. So those are the difference between a need and a want. So now that we know what exactly a need is, let's talk about the three types of needs living things can have. The first type of need that living things have are called basic needs. Basic needs. And basic needs are just the type of needs that can be found anywhere around you in the environment. So right now I'm outside and I'm going to show you. I have below me, I'm not sure if you can see, I have some dirt right here. Oh, there's a worm. Oh. So dirt is one type of basic need that this worm has for sure, but that a lot of living things have. It's something that plants and worms and different things need that's just found lying around. Another one is sunlight. My lighting's been acting a little weird because I have sunlight all around me. Sunlight is another type of basic need. Air is something that's all around me. I'm breathing it in. That's something that I need. So our three examples of basic needs would be soil, sunlight, air. Another one would be fresh water. If I was by a lake or a river, if it was raining, water is something that I need that I can just find by looking around. So basic needs are something you need that you can just find by looking around. No one has to make it. It's just there. Alright, so our first type of need is basic. Our second type of need is produced. You might remember from social studies that a producer is someone who makes something to sell. The word produce just means to make. So when you guys were making your bracelets, you were producing your bracelets. So what would a produced need be? A produced need is something that a living thing needs that is made. It's not just found lying around like dirt or sunlight. It has to be made. So one thing would be food. When you eat your food, someone usually has to cook it or make it. Usually have to buy it from a restaurant. Another thing that would be a produced need would be shelter. Whether you live in a house or apartment or something else, someone had to make that. Someone had to put that together. Well, let's think about animals, how they produce their shelter. A bird who has a nest, has to make the nest to shelter them away. I also found, and hopefully I can get this on camera, a hole right here where a snake or a chipmunk lives. And that hole wasn't just sitting there. The animal who lives in it had to produce or make it. So a shelter is some place to keep living things safe from the things around them. So that's something that has to be produced. This applies more towards people, but fuel that you need to make a fire or to make your car go, things like firewood or gas or things like that are things that need to be produced or made. So our first type of need is a basic need. Those are things you can just find lying around. Soil, sunlight, air, that living things need. And the second type is a produced need, something that someone or something has to make. Things like food, things like shelter, things like fuel that someone or something has to make. Our last type can be the hardest to understand, and that's called non-material needs. So let's break that down using our root words and prefixes. Well, first, the prefix non, you probably know, means not. And material means something that you can hold in your hands. So non-material would be something that you can't hold in your hands. It's real, but you can't physically see it or hold it in front of you. So something that's non-material are things like love. You can't say, oh look, there's a love, haha, let me hold it. No, but it's real, right? Joy, hope, peace, those are all non-material things. So let's talk about non-material needs that a living thing might have. One is safety. The need to be safe. The plants and the animals need to be safe just as much as you and I do to survive. Another one would be instinct. So God gives animals this amazing ability to know certain things about how to live. For example, sea turtles. When they're born, their mama lays an egg on a beach. And so when they hatch out of their eggs, unlike birds, their mama's not there. Their mama's in the ocean. And so without ever their mama teaching them or without ever they being taught, they know to go straight to the ocean, and that's called instinct. So instinct is the ability God gives animals just to know what's the right thing to do to help them survive. So instinct is another thing that God has given, is another non-material need. Now, the last one example I had would be things that the animal or plant or person has learned from their environment. So let's say there's a fire right here and I touch it. Well, I'm gonna learn pretty quick that I'm gonna get burnt, and I'm not gonna do that again. Same thing with animals, whether it be a dog or a deer or a wolf. They know that if they get too close to the fire and get burnt, they know not to touch that anymore. They learn it. So we can learn different things from our environment. So again, those are the three different needs a living thing has from their environment. The first one is basic needs, things you find just laying around. Dirt, sun, fresh water. Can you think of any more basic needs that a living thing, whether it be a plant, an animal, or a person, might have? Number two is produced needs. That's the need that someone or something has to make first. For example, whether it has to be food, shelter, or the examples we had were food, shelter, or fuel, something that someone has to make beforehand. Can you think of another example of a produced need that a plant, person, or animal might need? Okay, the last type of need that a living thing could get from their environment is non-material, something that's real but you can't see or hold in your hand. Some examples we gave are safety, instinct, the ability God has given an animal to know what's the right thing to do without being taught, and things you learn from your environment around you. So what's something else that you think of that's a need that a person, plant, or animal might have that's non-material? Alright guys, thank you for joining me for Science Today. You are going to find a Nearpod to do for today's lesson. Please remember to hit submit at the bottom of every single question you do, so that's the way to turn it into me. I hope you guys have fun and have a great day. Bye guys!